I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Love Letters. Love Letters are a collection of love stories how people get lost, get crazy, and disoriented in the name of love. And today, of course, this is my official co-host of Love Letters, no other than Miss Karen Dillon. Miss Karen, can you please, well, as my newly co-host, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
My pleasure. I'm so happy to be here. Now, Daniel is a young man, and I'm an old lady, and I am here to tell you that you don't love is not a respecter of ages or persons. Love is for everyone.
Yes. There's a verse in the Bible, I forgot where it's Romans, I think. Love is not boastful, love is what is all about? That's not jealous, but I
That's
forgot.
First Corinthians.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's First
First
Corinthians.
Corinthian. I'm sorry. Can you share to us, Miss Karen, which that verse in the Bible talks about?
Oh yeah, First Corinthians 13. You hear it often at weddings where they talk about love not being boastful, just as
Yes.
Daniel was talking about, and it's kind. It doesn't remember wrongs. It forgives. It doesn't hold against someone. So there's forgiveness involved in love and perfect love. And it says, there's faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Depending upon what translation you have, it may call it charity. So they're using
Yes.
charity as another way to call love. And it's interesting because in the Bible, the word love in the Greek language, it has different words for different types of love. Like agape love would be the love of God, the perfect, unconditional love of God. Fraternal love would be brotherly love, like the love you have for your friends and brothers and sisters. And then there's logos, which is the word, loving the word. And then there is the kind of love that is between a husband and wife or between your particular loved one that is unique to that person. So we only have one word. I love my husband and I love pizza. We have the same word, but in the Bible, they use very specific words to differentiate different kinds of love.
Yes. For sure, Miss Karen. So how do you define romantic love?
So, romantic love is should be connected emotionally to that person. So it's different from lust. I felt like the Lord told me lust is love in darkness. It's not it's a physical love that is selfish. It's more about what you can get from the person than what you can give to the person. So we differentiate the love we have for our boyfriend, our fiance, our husband or wife or spouse is a different kind of love than just lust. Now you can have desire for your spouse, and you should have desire for them, but that desire should be including giving, not just taking. And this is something that is a mature type of love. And very often, when we're in love with someone, we're having those emotional rushes and feelings that you just imagine you're going to be like, feel like that the rest of your life. And it's still really kind of a superficial love. It's not that deep, lasting, committed, mature kind of love that it takes to sustain a relationship long term. And we're here as we're talking about love letters, we're presuming that the kind of love that we want to have in our own lives and for our listeners to have is the kind of love that lasts. Isn't that right, Daniel?
Yes. And
That's
yes, go ahead. And
yes, we're not. Yeah, I mean, it's bigger and greater and longer lasting than just the rush of all that emotion when you first are in love with someone.
for sure, through thick and thin. That's what I want to say. Because once you agree that you're gonna love this woman, make sure to the end of your life that you're gonna love it and treasure the promise that you gave to the Lord. So, Miss Karen, can love be a platonic?
Absolutely, and that's that word that in the Greek, the philios love. It is platonic. It is a friendship love, but it can be extremely deep also. It can be emotional, and it isn't, however, going to include the physical or the lustful side or that kind of desire to for a relationship to really be philios. It has to be a brotherly or sisterly type of love, even if the person isn't related to you. And I know because we've been a long time, 50 years going to church, we can often feel that way about our brothers and sisters in Christ. As a matter of fact, it says that we should have that brotherly love one for another. And again, as we're talking about mature love, we're talking about a love that feels like you're giving to them. It's not about taking. It should be reciprocal. But you can absolutely have a deep and mature love for someone, whether they're a male or female, and it be pure and long lasting and totally committed, the kind of love where you would lay down your life one for another.
Yes. So, Miss Karen, let's talk about your love to your husband.
I'm very happy to share this, and this is a book my husband and I are working on, called An Unlikely Romance. Because when we met in church, and my joke is I met my first husband in a bar, and my second husband in church. I recommend the second way better.
For
Not that
sure.
it's a guarantee. But it certainly was a better choice for me. But we started out as friends, just as you're describing, Daniel. I was going through divorce. I had two little boys. I was brokenhearted. My husband had cheated on me. I was feeling very, very depressed and low. I did not feel good about myself as a woman. I felt completely rejected, and I was getting healing in this church I was going to. They were teaching a lot about getting healing from the wounds from our childhood. And I had no idea I had daddy issues. I didn't realize I had mama issues because I had a pretty good family life, I thought, even though my parents had divorced. But then I started meeting people in this group we had at church who really had bad childhoods, experiencing things I had never even imagined, with abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. It was shocking, really, to hear some of the ways that little children have been treated in their own families. It's shocking, and unfortunately I feel like we live in a culture that is an epidemic, that they say 1 in 3 children don't make it to 18 without being molested. That
Mm.
is shocking. That's epidemic. I mean, if we said 1 in 3 people had polio, we'd know it was an epidemic. So this is a serious issue, and most people carry that wound secretly. And that was certainly true for my husband, who I knew as a friend. I met him in church, and we became co-workers and co-laborers, and I fell deeply in love with him. But it was a different love than I had ever experienced. It's like God just put something deep in my heart for Jair. I saw him in a way I'd never seen anybody before. I loved him from the inside out. He was somebody really working hard to find healing and find a deeper relationship with God, and that's what really, really was attractive to me, because I was, on that same journey, and I felt as we were both seeking to get closer to Father God, we were getting closer to each other. And it wasn't, I had healing and deliverance from lust, uh, generational curse, as they call it, from lust, from my family, my parents, my grandparents. This spirit had been passed on to me. And women, we're different. We're wired different. We may have all of these gender confusion in our culture, but the reality is you can't change your DNA. You start out either male or female. And those are, we're wired differently. Our brains are wired differently. And it is different. Lust is, it manifests more in a different way for women than it does men. We are more visual, we're more emotional, and we get attached emotionally. We don't have lust the same way a man has it. So it's very complicated. I know for me in my first marriage, it was called emotional pendency, where it would be, here, let me give to you, but underneath would be, don't leave me, don't reject me. And nobody likes that feeling. That wasn't his fault, that was my fault. So this was stuff I was getting healing from when I met Jer. He was getting healing from the deep things I was talking about with sexual abuse and childhood emotion. No benevolent father figure. His dad was in Vietnam most of the time. When he came home, it was all, physical and emotional abuse and neglect. So he was not knowing how to be a man. They say psychologically that a woman is born feminine. She can reject her
Yeah.
femininity, but she's born with it. Whereas a man needs his masculinity modeled before him. So you see a little boy, a little tiny boy with his father. He wants to walk like his father. He wants to, be by the mirror when he's shaving and put shaving cream and pretend he's shaving. He wants to be modeling after this man who's in his life, hopefully his father, and his father is teaching him how to fish and teaching him how to, you know, use a hammer, a nail, or do the things that a man wants to grow up to know how to do. He learns it from his father. And when there's not a father figure, and again, we have 50% of our households in America without a father. Children are growing up without their fathers to teach them how to be a man or teach them how to feel safe as a woman, because girls need their daddies too. So, this issue, you bring my issues together with his issues, and you're talking about a washing machine of problems, right?
Yes. A washing
Fortunately,
machine of.
we washing machine all twirling around. But fortunately, we weren't dating. We weren't in a romantic relationship at this point. We're friends. Just like you're describing, filio friends. But he was getting more trusting of me, and he would write me letters, literally write letters. Now, these weren't love letters like you're describing. These were more just sharing his heart and his struggles and what he was going through emotionally. And they were treasures to me. And I would write him back, what I was going through. And we would just kind of pass them in the hallway at church or when we were having meetings. And it was really funny because um, no one knew about these letters. These were kind of a secret thing between us. And this went on for years. Years, Daniel. And I
Years,
went
yeah.
through my divorce. Yeah, divorce. And we had a big hurricane in Charleston, South Carolina, that we lost power. We lost the roof of our church. And so all the single people started helping, recovery. And it was a depository place. So people from Ohio sent truckloads of clothes and snowsuits and skis, which we can't use in Charleston. But anyway, they said even food and things. And our church was someplace. So we're all working, to help people that were devastated, just like they are in North Carolina right now, where they've been hit by a hurricane and everything gets shut down. We went through that. I know what that's like. So we were getting closer through this experience because you're working side by side, and there's not the pressure of dating. And I think, right now it's so popular to find people to date online, right? They're meeting online, and I think one of the good things that I've seen happen with that is people talk to each other. They get to know each other's heart without the pressure, the physical pressure, or those temptations. They can just get to know someone, and talk to them and see them face to face, and talk just online and say, well, what's your life been like? What's your life? See if you have things in common, and build a relationship through conversation and getting to know each other. It can be really good. I know it's been good for a lot of people that I know that have had successful marriages come out of that. So that's kind of what was happening for me and Jer. We were building this trust relationship slowly but surely. I was in recovery, emotionally, mentally, and physically, and from my past and from my divorce, bad 15-year relationship. He was recovering from very terrible childhood experiences, learning to trust God and trust people in our circle that we were both friends with. Um, and then we were actually in theater together. We were doing these plays, and we were playing a husband and wife in a play. And I had always said that I'm not going to let anybody kiss me if unless it's going to be my husband. Well, during the performance, he actually kissed me in the play. He didn't even think about it. I didn't think about it till afterwards. My friend said, "Didn't you say the next person who kissed you was going to be your husband?" I went, "Whoa. Do you think that Jared's going to be my husband?" This is 33 years, 34 years ago. We were young then. We were young then, and it was like in the moment of the play, he kissed me. Afterwards, I'm like, "God, is Jared gonna be my husband?" And I'm thinking, "He's got so many issues. How can we do it?" We had a wild,
so Miss
wild
so
time.
Miss Karen, how important is shared values in a relationship?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Daniel, it was premierly important for me. I don't think it would have we would I know for a fact that we would never have made it if we didn't have the same faith and values. I mean, even though we've gone through some struggles, lots of things, had children ourselves, and all kinds of troubles with the children through the years, finances, and all kinds of things, we would not have made it without shared values and faith. That is a very good question. So
So what
it's
ma-
something that
what
you need to think about.
yes, go ahead. So what make a successful partnership?
Well, I
What make
told my children that
yes.
even from me and my husband, it's that friendship first.
Okay, yes.
Getting to know each other's values and faith. Finding out if you do have that in common. I like rom-com movies. He likes action adventure. We may not like the same kind of movie, but we both love historical movies. So, I have
Historical.
some I like and watch with my mommy. He has some he watches with his friends, and then we have movies we like to watch together. So, you can have different things you like, but you need to have some common ground. We both love to read. We're voracious readers. We're always reading novels, both of us, all the time. It's a big thing. And our big shared value is our love of God, and we read the Bible together. And we do communion together, and we pray together. These are things that really have bonded us, not just emotionally and physically, but spiritually.
So can love conquer all conflicts?
I think love is the strongest power in the universe. Yes. If
Yes.
it's if you are really pulling on God, one of the things we learned through our healing process, when you we just talked earlier about the different types of love, agape love is the love that we want to have with each other, is that God love that loves deeply and sacrificially. Because when you love somebody and you're willing to lay down your life for them, just as soldiers do when they go to war, they've trained together, they've slept together as troops, and they go into the field together, and they look out for each other, and they literally will stand up and take a bullet for each other. That's sacrificial love. And when you love somebody that deeply, then you will have a commitment that can stand the trials of life.
Definitely. So how do you balance independence and interdependence to your relationship?
Well, that's a really good point, Daniel. When I was married the first time, because I had what I was talking about, love and darkness, lust and idolatry, I had emotional dependency. Now, I didn't understand that until years later, that I was contributing to the delinquency of my marriage. He cheated. He found somebody at 20 years old when he was 40, and left me with two little boys. So he had that on him. He was guilty of that. But what I was guilty of was emotional dependency. I could be independent, but with him, I had put him on the throne of my heart. What he thought of me is what I thought of me instead of what God said about me. Now that was my fault. That was my sin, not his. As a result, every time when I was describing I'd give, there was always that string attached. Don't leave me. Don't reject me. Because I'm naturally a giving person. It's my nature. I'm a mom. I'm maternal. I love to give. But when I was not healthy, it wasn't a healthy love that I was giving. And so even though I'm way more independent now, even as we are closer in this marriage, more interdependent with each other, my identity isn't in him. My identity is in God. So that's a huge difference.
Very well said, Miss Karen. Very well said. Thank you so much for your insight. So, can love change your life purpose?
Can it change my life purpose?
Yes.
Interesting. I think it does change as you get older. Your purpose changes, your life changes as you get older. And I think love gets deeper and it because I know that we have a deeper, more fun relationship now than we've ever had, over 30 years later. It's natural to change because we change, right? We don't look the same as we did 30, 40 years ago. We don't think the same. We have different ways and approaches and ultimately it's better when you get healing, when you get wholeness, when you get more wisdom and knowledge, you've gone through things. These are all things that weave you deeper and deeper and closer to each other. I mean, I think it's really sad when you see couples that don't pursue that closeness and they end up just kind of being roommates. Have you ever seen that? Where older people don't stay in that love commitment with each other. They don't really seem to care what each other's thinking. They just kind of coexist. That to me is not acceptable. I couldn't live like that. I never, I'm not that kind of person. I'm way too passionate for that. I've got to have, that all or nothing. And I know Jer feels the same way. We are all in, and good, bad, and ugly. We are all in. It's. I think most people really want that, and I think you can be all in and still be independent. I'm still my own person. He's still his own person, but what we have together, this one flesh marriage, it's really gratifying on so many levels is something that I know I always wanted. I wanted to be known and loved anyway. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes
I want you
sense.
to know every part of me and love me anyway.
So, Miss
The
Karen,
good, bad, and the ugly.
yes, for sure, I agree with you. So sum up our topic for today. Does relationships help you to discover yourself?
I think they do, don't you? That it's like this relationship is holding up a mirror to you. It's saying, wow, am I insecure in this way that I need them to verify me or validate me? Um, or am I really thinking about what I can do to help them feel validated? So I think it's a good mirror, good relationship, a mirror of, wow, did I just say that? Or how come that made me angry? These are questions we ask ourselves when we're coexisting, when we're wanting to get closer to someone, no matter what stage of the relationship we're at. If there's something that's hindering that closeness, then you want to find out what is it and how can we overcome it to get close again or closer more than we were before.
Very well said, Miss Karen. Very well said. And to s- to just to clarify of what we're talking about a while ago about love, the verse in the Bible is First Corinthians 13:4 says, "Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice or at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth." Well, well, well. Thank you so much, Miss Karen. Can you please
We have
invite
more to talk
Yes.
about.
Can you please invite our listeners to support all your projects and, of course, your books?
Well, I thank you so much, and we have a lot more to talk about, more topics, and if your listeners do have questions or things that they want to ask us about, they're free to do that, right? Where we can answer questions,
Yes.
and there's some topics I think that we can address, maybe some things that hinder our ability to love unselfishly or to receive love unselfishly. So there's a couple of topics we can address. But I'm an artist, and I'm an art teacher and coach, and I have a new book coming out. I have a book, How to Draw, How to Paint, but I also have one coming out, Art as Self Therapy, Wellness Through Creativity, because my husband and I have both found so much healing and joy through singing and music and art and dance. So I know that there's a lot of creatives in your audience.
Yes. Let's support Miss Karen Deloach because if you support her, more books to come, and of course more coaching to come. Right, Miss Karen? Can you tell us about your movie directing?
Yeah, I have a website, which is www.getcreativewithkaren.com, where you can get a three-part pop-up podcast that describes all kinds of ways to stir up your own creative gifts. So make sure to go to getcreativewithkaren.com and register for that pop-up podcast to learn more about it.
Yes, 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 people. Another episode of Love Letters. I hope you will continue listening to us because from now on, as I said, Miss Karen Deloach will be my officially co-host of Love Letters. And please do listen to my other podcast, Book 101 Review, on my fourth season. My feature author of the month of November, well, he is award-winning and best-selling author. So please listen to it. Our first episode last Monday, and tune in. Who is that author? So, Miss Karen, thank you for your time.
Blessings.
Moricon people, see you soon. So, Miss Karen, we make our episode like 20 to 30 minutes.